From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. 10 consecutive life sentences for the man who killed 10 people at a Boulder King Soopers in March of 2021. A judge issued the sentencing Monday, just hours after a Boulder County jury found the shooter guilty on 10 counts of first-degree murder and 45 additional charges. This verdict comes 3.5 years after the incident that shocked the community, and it followed long debates over whether the shooter was mentally competent to stand trial. For the victims' families, Monday was a milestone. Erika Mahoney lost her dad, 61-year-old Kevin Mahoney, in the shooting. Erika was in court for most of the trial and spoke with me shortly after leaving court to share her reaction.
Oh, wow. It's a moment I'll never forget. We were all packed into the courtroom, and when the judge read the word guilty, there was this huge sigh of relief. And I just immediately started crying. A lot of people started crying as well. It was like this just release of emotions.
Yeah, I can only imagine, and maybe a little bit surreal.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I know that you weren't required to be there during the trial, but you did attend most of the proceedings. What made you want to be there in the courtroom?
I wanted to be a voice for my dad. That was the main reason. It was an honor to represent my dad in the courtroom and outside of the courtroom as well, to carry on his legacy. It was hard, though. It was brutal. And there were days that I couldn't show up. But even on those days when I wasn't at the courtroom, I just felt like I was missing out. And so there's really no right answer, because either option is difficult. When you go, you see a lot of disturbing footage, and, I learned a lot of new details. And then when you don't go, you feel like, what am I missing?
Right. I can't imagine how difficult that must have been. What went through your mind during the trial as you heard prosecutors talk about what happened to your dad?
This trial has been a roller coaster of emotions. There were some days I left the Justice Center feeling really strong, and other days I left feeling really broken. I think the thing that stands out the most for me was watching the surveillance footage from the store of my dad's final moments. I always hoped that my dad's ending was painless. I hoped he was kind of oblivious to this. He was the second person killed. So I always just prayed he didn't know too much. And unfortunately, as the footage portrayed, that wasn't the case. There was a chase, and my dad fought hard to live. He ran, he tried to take cover, but where he was in the parking lot, there was nothing to hide underneath or hide behind. And so amazingly, the surveillance footage, it pans like left and right from the store, and it panned away when my dad was shot. And so I didn't see that. And that was such a blessing. But it was hard to see him running. And at the same time, it was comforting because he didn't want to go. He was fighting so hard to live, like so many of the other people.
Yes.
And also just seeing him was so nice. Like, that might sound weird, but just seeing him alive was just like, hi, Dad, I love you.
You're just such a strong person.
Oh, thank you.
I just want to say that. Erika, in your statement in court after the verdict was read, you said something that stuck with me.
I wish the young man behind the gun had received more love in his life, because then maybe none of this would have happened.
Would you talk about that a little?
Definitely. The day that all of this unfolded, I vividly remember lying in my bed. It was like midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I can't sleep. And in those moments, I was actually picturing myself in court speaking to the young man behind the gun. And And I was so angry and I was so hurt. And I just wanted to scream at him. I wish you had more love. Because then I think none of this would have happened. And 3.5 years have passed, but it's still the same thing that I wanted to say, and I did say it. And I went on to say in my victim impact statement that had the shooter showed up to the grocery store, gotten out of his car without a gun, and just screamed, "I need help." I mean, in some ways, I view this as a major cry for help.
Yeah.
My dad would have been the first one to go up to him and help him. And what is amazing is I wasn't the only one to say that.
Really?
Yeah, several family members said, my loved one would have helped you. And I think that is so beautiful.
It really is. And do you think the shooter could hear you?
That's a really good question. That's a really insightful question, because for so long I've wondered, what can he understand? But after going through this trial, I still felt like it was the right thing to say. I think love is the answer. I know love wins. I think if he would have gotten some more care and attention, there were definitely signs, obvious signs, that something was not right.
Yeah.
And so I truly do believe that had he received more love, he wouldn't have done this. And my dad showed me the greatest amount of love anyone could have ever asked for. I'm so lucky.
When do you find yourself thinking of your dad these days?
Constantly. The trial in some ways humanizes him so much. And in other ways, it dehumanizes him, because this is a process. This is the judicial process. But I've thought about him so much, and I thought about him a lot today, because it was around lunchtime that my phone just started blowing up verdicts in, verdicts in, verdicts in. And we had, I think, 30 to 45 minutes to get to the courthouse. And I live, say, 25 minutes away.
Oh, wow.
So so the first thing was just this gush of emotion when the verdict was in. I just felt so emotional. I was crying. I was shaking. I'm throwing on clothes, like trying to appear, in a good way for court. And again,
Right.
I get into my car and I'm rushing, and my hands are shaking on the steering wheel. And I heard my dad's voice slow down.
Oh.
You're okay. It's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. And I really felt him, of all days. I felt him a lot today. And leaving the courthouse, there's this beautiful sunset, which is so meaningful, because it's this end of a very long chapter in this never-ending story.
Yeah. That's Erika Mahoney, daughter of Kevin Mahoney. He was one of 10 people killed in the mass shooting at a Boulder King Soopers. You'll find more coverage of the verdict and the sentencing at kunc.org. And that's it for us today on In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thank you so much for listening.